Welcome to the feedback for the Workplace Health and Safety Unit of the Investigative Services program. Congratulations on completing that one. It's really important that you do, even though workplace health and safety is very generic, this is in particular to private investigators. So what legislation applies? Well, in every state and territory, it's the Workplace Health and Safety Act and the Workplace Health and Safety legislation. Any code of conduct that you have for workers' compensation in your state, or Transport Accident Commission, or CTP liability in relation to who you work for, and the investigation agency's agreement with any of those government departments is really important. That tells you how to operate safely, covertly, privacy, that sort of thing. Anti-discrimination can be important. Licensing requirements, of course, are very important. You wouldn't be out there being a private investigator if you weren't licensed. Personal protective equipment is vital. A lot of the times you're going to be conducting work where there was already one accident, and if you're going there, you're going to have to abide by the safety rules when you go there to measure, inspect and videotape the scene. So sickness and accident reporting are very important. Ergonomics, manual handling, noise control, storage of any hazardous substances you may collect as evidence. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but the most common injury to private investigators, who are always in a hurry and rushing to their next appointment, is a simple, easily avoided injury. What they do is they grab their laptop computer and they throw it in a bag and they throw it over their shoulder with a shoulder strap there, and they rush out the door, and the door shuts behind them, the bag jams in the door, and they pull a muscle in their shoulder, and they're in neck pain and back pain for a long time afterwards. That is the most common injury to private investigators. Now, I know it's disappointing that it's not bullet wounds and fight scars and stuff like that, but it's quite a safe industry if you use common sense. So keep that in mind before you rush to your next appointment. Take a deep breath, have your bag ready, open the door, go through the door, make sure your bag's with you all the way through, then close the door behind you. What is meant by the term hierarchy of controls? It's a step-by-step process where we look at a number of ways where we can control a hazard. So step one is try and eliminate the hazard. So take it away. What's the hazard? It's a frayed power cord, extension cord. Right, let's buy a new one and take it away. Try and substitute the hazard with a lesser risk. Move the equipment that relied on that extension cord closer to the power source. That'll substitute it. Try and isolate the hazard. So you could build a guard wall around the hazard. So if it was electrical, for example, you can put up a little fence so no one can, they have to go through a gate, and if they go through that gate to get in there, they've got to have a tag that says someone's in there and working on it. You can use engineering controls. Now again, that might be put a cage around it, could be put a barrier around it, it could be redesign where the electrical power point was. You can use administrative controls. You can lay down the law. Before you go in there, you have to get a permit to enter that room. Before you go up that ladder, you have to get a permit to work at heights. You use personal protective equipment, so hard hats, high vis, that sort of thing, a fall arrestor if you're going up a ladder. That's the hierarchy of controls. When working alone as a factual investigator, these are some of the risks you might see. You might be exposed to building site accidents. You go onto a messy, unkept building site to interview the principal contractor about an accident that's happened before, or at another site. They can be quite messy and busy. You could get a back injury if you lift things that are beyond what you have to do. So you might be lifting something out of the way so you can get access to something. It could hurt your back. So be aware of that. Be aware that you're carrying electrical equipment all the time. And so, just maintain it. Look, make sure it's working properly. All the power cords are correct. You may even get stress from the result of you working too much on. Some people do get stressed. Chill out. Have a holiday, take a rest, knock back some work. You may be picking up hazardous chemicals. You go into a cleaning room that contains these chemicals, the door hasn't been open for a week and a half and you're the first person in, you're certainly going to know about it as an investigator. Assault, very rare. I'm only aware of one assault in my 25 years as a private investigator that actually happened. That happened in Hobart a number of years ago, and the guy that did it was a bikie, and he was an idiot. It's not a dangerous job. You can get cuts and wounds from silly things like paper cuts can happen. It is potential for dog bite if you're going to people's homes. If there's a vicious dog there, ring them up and ask them to put the dog away. If you're out in the field measuring a scene, you can get sunburn, so look at sun protection and always wear a high visibility jacket, shirt or waistcoat if you're out measuring and photographing scenes where car accidents have happened. Some of the issues when working alone as a surveillance operative, the number one thing in a car where you're parked in a street and you're watching someone for a long period of time is going to be heat stroke. Make sure that you're well hydrated. That's very important. Motor vehicle accidents do happen. It's not always the investigator's fault. Some people will rush through a red light as you're going through a green light. Be very wary of what's going on around you. Back injury can occur mostly from broken seats in vehicles. That's where the investigators get bad backs. Quite often, a surveillance investigator has to park their vehicle in a car park where the claimant has then gone and parked in a disabled parking. So the surveillance agent has to park a long way away, then sprint back to the shopping centre and find that person. Slips, trips and falls in those cases are a hazard. Insect bites in the bush, if you're doing surveillance in the bush, snakes, that sort of thing can be difficult. Extreme cold, you must be prepared for that. And not being aware of yourself when you're being a pedestrian and you're following someone, you could end up being hit by a car, bus, tram, anything. Just be very careful and be aware of your surroundings. Workplace health and safety training is delivered to investigators in many different ways. Today, everyone has a case management system where it's emphasised almost on a monthly basis now. Anything that's happened in relation to accidents, you'll be fully informed of through your network and of employers that you work with. You will be given inductions for various insurance companies before you actually work for them, and they will include workplace health and safety in that. So, some of the things that, other than that, you can have signage up for people at the office. You can ensure that in operating in certain areas and certain times of the year, like bushfires in the country or floods in Queensland, in North Queensland, and cyclones at that time of year, that there are timely warnings through the intranet and the case management system. Maintaining equipment's really important. You don't want damaged equipment that could lead to some kind of electrical fault. So newsletters, emails, brochures, WhatsApp, all these things today are really important reinforcement for workplace health and safety. When you're required to inspect, photograph and measure an accident scene at a busy intersection, it is highly dangerous. There's already been one accident there, that's why you're there. So the risks that you have are being hit by a motor vehicle. There could be a risk of a slip, trip or fall. Now, one of the ones that surprised me when I was doing this one day was there was a relative of the lady that died in the accident who lived nearby, saw what I was doing and came up and started to go off at me about the person who killed her. Now, I wasn't expecting that one. It was a beauty, and for probably 3/4 of an hour this guy let fly. I think he had a mental disability too, which didn't help, but it was something I just had to let him drain it all out, and then finally exhausted he went away. He didn't try and hurt me or assault me or anything like that, but he was very emotional about his relative that had died in that accident. And it was quite a freak accident too, because it was a car parked on a slope coming out of a shopping centre car park, which was sloped, and it was a vehicle that had high back wheels, and he was backing out, and a lady who was a short lady bent over on a walking stick. She was elderly. He didn't see her and he ran her straight over, so it was quite a tragic, fatal accident. So if they're fatal, they're emotional, and if you're at the scene, you can attract people in relation to that. High visibility vest is absolutely important when you're there at the scene. Safety shoes. If you have witches hats, for some reason, don't go putting them on the road, but you may give you an idea of where vehicles ended up or something in relation to the telegraph pole or the traffic lights or whatever. Park your vehicle legally and safely, and if you can't park nearby, make sure you walk. Don't just park on the corner where that accident happened. You will need your camera and video recorder, and you'll need measuring equipment too. When I go and look at the time of the accident, I always go at the same time of the accident so I can see what the traffic conditions are like. If I need to measure it, I can go to the council and get their drawings from it. That's one safe way of doing it. Or I can go back and measure it at a much quieter time of day. So that's some strategies I have that you might want to consider. Keep in mind the weather conditions at the time of the accident. If it was driving, pouring rain, you can check that with BOM. Any traffic reports on the day might be available through the transport agency or something like that. CCTV might be available, and you could door knock the area for potential witnesses. So all those things come into consideration with an accident scene in a busy intersection. With assessment 3, you're going out to a stranger's house, and if it's in relation to a civil investigation, they might be working. They could be a truck driver, they could be a retail worker, they could be a factory worker, they could be a doctor, who knows. But if it's in relation to a civil investigation, they're not going to see you at work, so they will see you at home. And if you're going to meet them at home, you'll meet them on their day off, or a Saturday morning, or it might even be an evening. So when you go out to other people's houses, you must consider your personal safety. Always let someone else know where you're going, what time you'll be there, and what time you expect back. That's really important. The things that could put you at risk, their mental state. They might be violent, abusive, irrational, delusional, you don't know. They may be trained in martial arts or boxing or something like that. They could be a large size and might be able to overpower you. They could be a member of a gang or a mob, that sort of thing. It could be under the influence of drugs and alcohol. If they are, don't conduct the interview, just reassign it for another day and invite them into your workplace's office or your lawyer's office to speak to them there. They may have a criminal history, you don't know any of the things. The important thing here, if they're going to see you, and this is what I want you to keep in mind, if they cooperate with you, they're going to get, a payment or a benefit from talking to you. So most people aren't stupid. What happens is, if it's a lady and her husband's a nutcase and they've had a few drinks and they start raving on and you're trying to take a statement, that's a bit difficult. You might ask the lady if she could just ask him to stop interfering because it's her statement. And if it escalates from there, you can leave and reappoint for a time when the drunk husband isn't home. The location of the home, they could live in a dangerous sort of area. There might be a lot of drug dealers in the area, something like that. Access to the house, they might have a driveway and invite you into the driveway. They could lock that gate behind you. They may have dogs or dangerous animals. You don't know any of that. When you get there, assess the situation. If it looks risky, don't go in there. I just want to say something about socio-economic areas. I've conducted interviews with people in the lowest socio-economic areas in Australia, and I've never heard a swear word. All I've got was cooperation and help. Yes, some people lied to me, and we found that out later, but I never had a bit of trouble. I've been in some of the most socio-economic advantageous suburbs in Australia and done interviews in people's houses there, and all I've heard was swear words and abuse. So it will never cease to amaze you what you think is going to happen and what does happen. So it's not really dangerous. Remember, they're going to get a benefit from helping you, but you just must be aware of a few of these things just in case. Person's home. Some of the things that could be hazardous to you are children's toys and skateboards in the footpath as you go in. You must remember that they're on the way out. You can even put them over to the side of the footpath on your way in or out. Again, it could be dogs, that sort of thing. I never accept a cup of tea or coffee when someone asks me for that. You'll start interviewing some people, they'll get to really like you and they'll just about make you a baked dinner and expect you to eat it. But just say to the people, look, I just had a cup of coffee, I just had a cup of tea, I'm fine, thank you. You don't know what their hygiene's like, so just be very careful with that. If after commencing the interview the witness becomes difficult and aggressive and you think it might escalate, you can try and calm them down. Avoid staring at them. Give them some personal space. Understand why they're upset. You can say to them, look, let's take a break, regain some composure. You can explain the steps from, that point on. No. Someone gets upset when you're doing an interview with them, the important thing to do is try and calm them down, avoid staring and eye contact, and give good personal space. Be compassionate and sensitive. They're remembering something where they were bullied or harassed or had an accident. They've been in pain ever since, so they could be wound up about it. Ask them why they're upset, empathise, listen carefully to them, offer helpful solutions. You can't promise them anything, but explain, I'm here to help you. I'm here to get your version of events. And I will pass that on through your statement. Acknowledge their concerns or frustrations. Don't be patronising. Try and have relaxed body language. Talk in a soft tone. Don't get confrontational. Show sympathy and be truthful. Don't be pushy. Try to establish rapport. Ask open questions and move on to another topic. If they don't answer what they need to answer, you can always come back to it later after they've calmed down. Assess it. Are you in danger? If you are in danger, what's your exit strategy? What did you work out on the way in? How quickly you can get out? You can reappoint for another day. Say to them, we'll contact you by phone and reappoint for another day. I've got to leave. That's it. If ever you have a problem, and it's going to be rare, it won't be often. Now, you might ring up someone and they might be angry on the phone about making the appointment because their car was stolen and you're the first person that they've heard from. They answered all 500 questions on the phone 3 days ago with the insurance company, and since then nothing's happened. They've got no letters, no contact, and it's just you. So they go off about the fact they haven't got a car and they seem very aggressive. You get out to the house to speak to them and take a statement. They're really friendly, they're really pleased to see you, and they're really helpful. They're not like they were on the phone after that first interaction. So be aware of that. Don't get edgy about people being upset minimal things. Try to have resilience. If you do have a major incident where you do have to leave, yes, tell your boss. Speak to them about it. Ask them if you did the right thing. Explain to them that if you ever have to go back there, you'll need another person with you, something like that. So that's very important, is your personal safety.